with still no light at the end of the tunnel, I woke up one morning and I just realized that this will not be over anytime soon. And that I could have this disease determine my life and my career, or I don't. We hardly can influence what happens to us in our life, but I feel we always do have a choice how we react to it. So for me, this was a very conscious act of taking back some sort of, control over my life. I always ask a question, which is, who are you when I take away your current job or title?
Welcome to Leading to Profit. I'm your host, Kevin Bees, and I've dedicated my career to empowering business leaders like you with the leadership skills, performance psychology they need to build thriving businesses. Are you ready for immediately actionable strategies from world-class profit leaders? Let's dive in. This is Leading to Profit. Leading to Profit, episode number 257. Today, we have Germany's top personal branding expert for leaders in tech. Her name is Katja Pischel, and she helps leaders and senior professionals build and communicate their brand for more visibility and impact. Now, I've known Katja for over half a decade, and you are in for a treat in this episode because Katja is a successful entrepreneur who's built her life to work just 4 days per week. She lives her life between Germany and Colorado in the USA. And she brings a depth of experience as a senior executive in technology. In addition to that, she's run a not-for-profit organization that supports children in Nepal for the last decade. Now, with all of this experience that Katja is going to share with you, how you can run your business in 2 hours a day. So I'm excited. Let's jump in. Katja, welcome.
Hey, Kevin. So great to be with you today.
Hey, so great to be with you, and you are full of energy for someone who's up and awake so early there in Germany. I know it's not even 8 a.m. there yet, and you have boundless energy, which is amazing. Now, you had a very successful career in tech for over 20 years. So I wonder if you could tell us, how did you come to start your own business and be in the world of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, the thing is, I knew that I would have my own business eventually, ever since I have been working for a startup company in the late 90s. And I always say that is the way that I was socialized, in an environment where there really were no structures. I didn't have a formal boss that told me what to do. So I think I just learned to become highly intrinsically motivated and highly responsible. And then I did indeed have a successful career in tech that eventually brought me into the leadership team of Microsoft Germany. But then in 2016, my life took a significant turn. My husband was diagnosed with severe depression just a year after we got married. And that disease really took everything, well, almost everything I had. Never before had I felt so powerless and desperate. And you know all about this because this is the time when we've been working together, right? So 6 months in, with still no light at the end of the tunnel, I woke up one morning and I just realized that this will not be over anytime soon. And that I could have this disease determine my life and my career, or I don't. I chose the second option, and from there on, very purposely, took on my last 2 roles at Microsoft, became a certified coach, which then eventually led me into becoming an entrepreneur at the end of 2018. I just woke up January 2018, and I decided by the end of the year, I will hand in my notice. And shortly before I wanted to do that, my job became redundant, so I could leave with a golden handshake, which was very, very fortunate.
Thank you very much. You manifested that very well. I really love how you came to an acceptance of the situation, but you also decided at the same time that it wasn't going to dictate your life. And I think sounds like a very powerful decision that opened up a lot of opportunities for you.
Yes, it did, because, we hardly can influence what happens to us in our life. But I feel we always do have a choice how we react to it. So for me, this was a very conscious act of taking back some sort of, you know, control over my life.
Yeah, it's so important. I really, really want to underline that point. We can influence what happens to us, but we can choose how we react to it. The same
Mhm.
for all of us in any situation. Now, in 2023, for 4 months, you had something that happened to you, and your response to it is quite impressive. And I'd love to dig into it. So for 4 months, you were only able to work with one eye, and for a maximum of 2 to 3 hours per day. So you mentioned like a life curveball. How did you deal with that curveball? How did you keep your business running and still keep serving your clients in that scenario?
When I think of it in the end, how did I keep my business running? It really came down to three things. The first was I had invested heavily in building a strong personal brand, and I'm positioned very, very clearly in a very clear niche. And this still made it extremely easy for me to get recommendations and referrals. So that was one part that helped me keep my business going. The second really is that I have built a business model with scalable offers that beautifully build on one another. So that means, selling something and teaching it that you've done before makes it so much easier than, having highly customized offers and services for every single customer. And I think the third one was I do have a very special approach to planning. I call it the get shit done formula. And that helps me, it helps me to really always be crystal clear on what my priorities are and how they make it into my calendar. So then I just had a very clear plan for those 2 hours and I just executed on the same things day in and day out.
I love that. So many important things there. And I can attest to your get shit done formula. I've seen the amount of work that you do in a short period of time. I'm always impressed, whatever you committed to, like, boom, it was done. And so many things I want to dig into in this, planning, very important, scalable offers, customizing things all the time, maybe nice for the customer. It's not going to allow you to scale and, help build on it. It's super important. I want to tap more into this personal brand and personal branding, because I know you help a lot of the new senior leaders that you work with to improve their personal branding. So what are some things that we should be thinking about, or things that we can do to make sure that we too have a strong personal brand?
Yeah, I think it all starts with having that clarity around what it is that makes us unique and special. And I always say, well, I always ask a question, which is, who are you when I take away your current job or title? Because this, in my world, is what your personal brand really is. It is a very clear picture about who you are when you live your purpose in action. And this is independent of a current job or business you have. So once you have that clarity, what I see what happens is that people develop such a strong confidence, which again, we cannot influence what happens to us. You can lose your job within an instant. I had that happen to me 3 times while I was in the tech industry. I see it happen to my clients all the time. But once you have that confidence, it makes it so much easier to deal with these kind of things. And then once you have the clarity, you have the confidence, for me, it's all about showing up consistently. And as entrepreneurs, we might not always feel like it, but we just still do it. And when you invest in showing up consistently on the platform of your choice, it could be a social media platform, it could be doing speaking. I mean, these are just different channels. But as long as you choose a channel that suits you and your abilities and you stick to it rather than trying 10 different things, I feel it's still relatively easy to stick out.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And of course, the benefit you shared before is when you stick out in that way, is going to drive recommendations and referrals, which makes it easier for you to do 2 to 3 hours per day, because your energy is in delivering amazing work, as opposed to putting all of your time and energy into marketing and selling, because you're doing a great job. People are being referred to you. I really love the frame that you put around this. Who are you when I take away your current job or title? For many people, even just hearing that, they're going to feel nervous and a little bit naked, because well, who am I without this title? Actually, who am I? My immediate default is like, hey, I'm a dad. but then like, I want to take that title away as well. Like, who am I? How do I really articulate that? Now, the point you make is that if you live, from your purpose and your action, then it's going to guide you much better. You're going to be able to stand out and you connect with people better. As a result of this, I know you live from your personal brand. You're very connected to your own intuition. And as a result of that, that's led you, on some different paths. I mean, it's led you out of the corporate world into this entrepreneurial space. Recently, I know it's led you to having written a book called And Then Life Happened, which is about how female leaders navigate major health crises. Tell us more about how did that come about?
I must say, I didn't choose to write this book. This book chose me. And it did on September 22nd in 2023, when like a regular checkup at my eye doctor turned into a nightmare. And I was already born with a severe visual impairment and have a long history with my eyes. I got artificial lenses implanted in 2010. But on that day, when I was supposed to have a regular checkup, my doctor said out of the blue, hey, we will need to take out your implants as they are destroying your eyes. And if we don't act fast, you will lose your eyesight. Oh, and by the way, you will need to have corneal transplantation at some point in the future. And I was sitting there and this is quote, I was sitting there in her practice listening to this. And my first reaction was, oh shit, this is going to have a massive impact on my business and my life. And the second thought was, I need to write a book about this. And the title starts with, And Then Life Happened. And I was sitting there, like kind of watching me from above and laughing, like saying to myself, hey, universe, did you just hear what news I got? I need to prepare myself for several surgeries. So if you want me to write a book, I need clear instructions. And over the next month, I just let my intuition guide me through that process. And it gave me very clear instructions. It told me that book needed to be written in English. It told me that it wasn't only about my story, but about the story of 6 other women from 3 continents and 5 countries. And then I started writing eventually in July of 2024. And here we are. That's the story, how this book came about.
How it came about. And of course, it just launched in the last week. So it must be very exciting for you to bring this to the world.
Yes. I still almost can't believe it that this is happening, but it has been launching and my intention with this book really is to inspire and support as many women as possible around the globe who are, dealing with similar situations that we, myself and the women I feature in the book have been dealing with. Because I'm a firm believer of, when we talk about these things, it makes us realize that we are not alone. And it gives us the opportunity to turn, what is a severe crisis into I call it a catalyst for growth and transformation.
And it is a very inspiring book. And I know you're targeting more so the female leaders, but as a guy, having read the book, there's some very powerful wisdom and powerful lessons in there as well. So I don't know if you're a guy listening, you should rule yourself out. I think it's a powerful insight as well. And maybe some of our listeners are thinking about sharing their own story. I mean, we've spoken about branding and positioning themselves. So if they are going to share a story about navigating their own challenges, where do you recommend that they should start?
I recommend starting with asking yourself the honest question, what is your intention with sharing? Why do you really want to do this? Because sharing your story, may it be through a book or through speeches, it's a very personal process and you need to be very clear on the intention. Because people always ask me, how much should I reveal and what should I, keep to myself? And like, the concept I'm using to answer this is always teach from your scars, not your wounds. And that means, once we've lived through an experience, once we've generated learnings that we can share, we know it's a scar. We can talk about it. But if it's still too fresh, if it's still a wound, then it's just not a good idea. So start with your start with your intention, make sure you teach from a scar and not your wound. And then, if you feel like it, get help with the process. It makes it just so much easier.
Quick question. Are you leaving profits on the table? Discover where hidden profit leaks are draining your business and how to stop them. Download my free report, Stop Leaking Profits, at www.profit.gifts, GIFTS, and start maximizing your profit today. Now, back to the show. Yeah, I love that. And starting from the intention is so key, which is probably why this book came to life, in such a powerful way that it did for you, because you had a very clear intention. It didn't seem to be about making money, growing business. It actually came from a position of wanting to inspire women and make a difference.
Exactly. And then, I've seen this over and over again. When you start with an intention that is about, supporting others, serving others, the rest, falls into place. Not by doing nothing. Obviously, this is not what I'm suggesting, but things just work out very beautifully then.
I love that. Beautiful. Teach from your scars, not from your wounds. Now, Katja, it's often said that emerging leaders have excellent answers, but truly skilled leaders have the right questions. Now, on this show, I know the heart of it, we really want to explore the questions that lead to breakthroughs in leadership and profitability. So I wonder, what is one question you've asked that's had the biggest positive impact on your results?
I think it's probably the question that I was confronted with just a little bit over a year ago. And this is what really happens when you have a business, you have a thriving business, and then all of a sudden you just can't continue the way you used to, just because you don't have the, either the physical or mental ability. What happens?
Is a very real question. And as you're asking, I'm thinking from my perspective, if I was ill and I couldn't continue, or, my wife or my children, touch wood, they're healthy and well, and I needed to take care of them, I would be stuck, because I know I spend a lot of time, in my business. It's on me. I've got team members who help out, but they would probably be a little bit stuck as well, because it kind of comes back to me. So I think from my perspective is a confronting question. One of my mentors says the worst number in business is 1. And I guess if your business is solely dependent on you, it's a big risk. So now that you completely scared us with the question, what do we do? If that's us, you clearly asked this question and found a way to navigate it. What do we do if the business is dependent on us and we can't run it?
First of all, I think that question isn't so extraordinary, because what I learned is things like that can happen very quickly. And it doesn't have to be like that massive health crisis that I was confronted with. It just, it can be enough that like normal things happen, like your parents get old, they need help all of a sudden. And you just have to shift your priorities. So what can you do? I think the best thing you can do is really very early on invest in building assets for your business that work for you once you cannot, or at least partially or for some time, cannot continue the way you did. So invest in building assets like your brand, like a story, like a product. And the second thing is build your business in a way as you have done and I have done as well, where you have either somebody who can part of the delivery for you, so it's not only depending on you. And a third part that I think that I see many entrepreneurs really neglect is start building also what I call like financial independence. So really have a very clear plan about your financials going forward, because when you haven't, I always see on Instagram those tips like you need like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months of cash reserves. And this is nice, but honestly, if the shit hits the fan, this is nothing. So you need you need to build a bigger reserve. And this is something you start doing very early on. Yeah.
Build a bigger reserve, get that war chest there in case it happens. And I know from what I've read in your book, this is something, you know, you're not just realizing now, you had that in place. So when you needed time to work these things out and you had your emergency fund there, you had that kind of confidence, like, hey, I've got my emergency fund. I've got
Yes.
time, I've got space, I can work this out. It's so important. I really want to accentuate the point that you made there. So like invest in assets that will work when you cannot. And that could look like anything in the business. That could be, you know, online things, that funnels that are, you know, being selling even when you're not there. That could actually be team members, you know, in a system and a process who can still keep things running for you. I know I've had a colleague here who basically couldn't work for a year, but actually no one except the people close to the business had any idea because the way things were set up. So you can actually do that and get that set up in place. Yeah. The other point I think you were making though is when you say invest in assets, I like to delineate the idea that you're talking about business assets, but investment assets. One of the things that Robert Kiyosaki talked around that, I mean, he talks about the four quadrants of that, but two things you really need to be good at is that, hey, if you can do well at making money in a business, that's great, but you're much stronger if you can make money in your investments as well. And that's what you're saying. Hey, build that financial independence. Is not if all your revenue and income is dependent on this one business, then
Yes.
you know that's a challenge. So I love that. There's two very important lessons for us to get there. Now, I appreciate some of that will take time. People aren't going to click their fingers and get that done overnight. So where's the best place to start?
You know, if I could start again, so if I look at myself like 20 years ago, and I didn't start 20 years ago, but especially for people who already start out and it's never too late, I would definitely start with building their financial independence, like building investments beside a job or a business. Because this takes time, right? The longer we do this, the higher the return will be. And the other thing is, this does take time as well, is investing in these processes and systems that help you to become step by step more independent from, you know, just being a solo entrepreneur and doing it all yourself.
Love it. Very important message for all of us. So here's a question then. What if you suddenly can't run the business the way you used to, you know, because of, you know, you're ill, someone else is ill, or any other number of reasons? How you can handle that? And I think it's important to have those assets in place, you know, in your business and financially. So that's really great. Hey, I'm having such a great time. You're providing such value and wisdom. I know I could keep talking to you all day on the personal branding and the leadership stuff because you're so skilled in that area. I wonder if you could tell us, is there any, if someone wants to get in contact with you, where's the best place for them to come and find you?
The best way really is to find me through LinkedIn. Yes. And then just send me a message and we'll be in touch.
Great. Wherever you're listening, click in the show notes there. There's going to be a clickable link to LinkedIn and Katja's website as well. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Any final messages for our listeners today?
Whatever you are experiencing in your business or life, just know you are not alone. Everybody, you know, has something heavy to carry, big or small. And by opening up, we really can connect with each other in a very, very different way. Because in a world that is full of fake and, you know, like the perfectly curated Instagram facades, people still follow people and people want to connect with people and people buy from people in the end.
We do. Beautiful, beautiful message. And it's a good reminder for us to be vulnerable in that way and share. And, you know, I think recognizing that other business owners have challenges too is important because we can get stuck here feeling like it's only us, you know, we're the only ones going through this and no one else will understand. But the reality is when you open up, you know, you find that other people do understand. So, Katja, you've been absolutely amazing. I really appreciate everything you shared today. Thank you so very much. And wherever you're listening then, I'd like you to just, as a quick recap, to think about these key points then. Number one, we need to be focusing in on building a strong personal brand. It's such an important thing. It's going to help you get more referrals, more recommendations. And then when life happens and things don't go the way we want to, hey, well, you've already built a good brand that you can leverage. You can get referrals, you can get recommendations. And importantly, on all of that, you know, when you are sharing, if you are sharing vulnerably about your challenges, teach from your scars, not from your wounds. I really love that point in here. And Final question. Make sure you take this one and give it some serious thought today. What if you suddenly can't run your business the way you used to? What are you going to do? Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, Kevin.
Thank you for tuning in to Leading to Profit. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. It helps us to reach more leaders like you who are committed to maximizing their positive impact and profitability. Until next time, this is Kevin Bees, and remember, you stop leaking profit when you're engaged in leading to profit.